I got to tell you, there's a lot of good things about this job that I'm blessed to be able to do. There's nothing, though, that's better than getting to know the participants themselves. Good morning to you. Good Friday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Steelers. It comes your way bright and early every weekday if you're into hockey and or baseball. I also offer daily shots of Penguins and Pirates year-round, and I hope you'll check those out as well. The Steelers completed day 6 of OTAs yesterday on the South Side. Coming up next week is the not voluntary, for lack of a more graceful way to put it, mini camp. That's 3 days, Tuesday through Thursday, June 7 through 9. And that, as much as it'll mean to everyone else from the football perspective, represents for me just more chances to get to know these guys, in particular the new guys. And when I say new, I'm referring mostly to the guys that have just been acquired or just been drafted, but I also could very easily mean guys who've been here through a couple of years of the pandemic because we didn't get to know them at all, didn't really get a sense for who they are, a vibe. And to give you an example of what I mean by that, today I'm going to share with you a 2-minute conversation that I had with James Daniels, the new right guard, that I hope gives you the same kind of glimpse that I got into him.
James Daniels, Pittsburgh Steelers. First of all, how does that sound?
It's pretty cool. Like, grew up hour and a half away, and so I know how important how important the Steelers are to people in that area. So
good point.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing to be back and be close to home.
What is it going to take for this offensive line to become a unit? We can talk about all the additions, including yourself and everything, but none of it's going to matter if you don't. You know what I mean?
Correct. Yeah, it's true. We just have to play together, and all of us being here during OTAs, that's just a part of us being together, and during the season, just communicating and just playing together. And I mean, it's kind of hard at first, but once we build that camaraderie and we're all out there, that can really help us become a great offensive line.
How much of that is on you? I mean, you're not exactly an old guy, but at the same time, look at who's around you.
Right. It is. Yeah. It's on. I feel like we all have, we all own 20. I mean, 5 of us, we all own 20% of making us together, and that's hey, me texting a group, hey, do you guys want to go see a movie? Or Mason saying, hey, come over to my house for dinner, and things like that. And I feel
you that guy?
Yeah, we all are. We all are. Yeah. And so far, it's been great. And so, it's been really good. Everyone's been doing a really good job for us to get together outside the building and help us build that camaraderie there.
Last thing I have for you, what's the next level for you? You've gotten better every year you've been in the league. I don't think anybody would dispute that. What's the next level for you? What are you thinking about?
If you ask people in Chicago, they say I've got worse.
Yeah, well, you're not in Chicago anymore.
Yeah, but no, just keep on every
Let's
year.
Put it this way, James. The check that you just handed, it says something else. Okay,
definitely.
Let's be clear.
Okay,
on this. Right.
I would say just focusing on my technique every week and every day. Focusing on my technique, just getting better every day, is because that's something offensive line is a very technical position, and if you really only get beat, sometimes rarely it's lack of effort, it's mainly lack of technique. And so that's just something you just need to focus on every day and just keep on improving. And once I do that, once I stack the days, get better with my technique every single day, that end to end help you become a better player, and you start stacking weeks, and that helps you become a better player. That helps each player take the next step to their game.
Perfect. Thanks, man.
No problem.
This portion of Daily Shot of Steelers is brought to you by Point Park University. Choose from nearly 100 career-focused programs leading to bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees. Choose when and how you'd prefer to do that studying, whether it's at Point Park's gorgeous downtown Pittsburgh campus, whether it's online, maybe a flexible hybrid format would work best for you. Find out more about all of this at pointpark.edu. You see what I mean? It's just me and James Daniels there at his stall, one-on-one, having a conversation. No Zoom call, no group session, no podium, no masks, no nothing. Just this, me and him. Just like it was with Mason Cole, just like it was with several other players over these past few weeks. But I'm going to tell you that the one that really jumped out at me ever since these off-season sessions have resumed and locker rooms have been reopened to reporters was the time that I had with Dan Moore. Now, Dan Moore is a guy who, was thrust, it felt like, onto the offensive line last season when there were really no other answers because Zach Banner got hurt, Chuks Okorafor had to move over to right tackle, and Moore, to me, just speaking only for myself here, just became a name. He became like a statistic. And I just had no sense for him. So when he'd have a bad game, I felt like I was ripping a statistic, like a non-entity. And I wasn't very comfortable with that. When he had a terrific game, notably against Myles Garrett of the Browns, I felt even worse about it because I didn't have the sense for what kind of a person he is, how much he'd be appreciating that. What did he learn? How has he progressed? What are things that I can share with you that go beyond just finger wagging at a name and number? So the other day, I spent some time getting to know her as well. And even though he's been here for a year and a half, I felt like I just knew nothing about him. But listen to this response that he gave me when I asked about the importance of the offensive line bonding, about coming together and what that takes. And also, what's the benefit of it? What does it really mean? Because it sounds cliched. We always hear about offensive linemen bonding. What's the main thing that you get out of it?
It's true. Hanging out and really being, how can I say this? Really molding outside of this room.
I get it.
Learning each other and being around one another. That makes game day a lot easier. That makes practice a lot easier. That makes criticism to each other easier. You know what I mean?
I see what you're saying. You can say something. You're more comfortable.
You know what I'm saying?
That actually makes perfect sense.
Definitely. Than opposed to not really knowing a guy and trying to coach a guy that really doesn't really know you, doesn't really know how you respond to things. But now if I hung out with you, I know, okay, you're a little bit more quiet. Maybe I don't have to get on you that much. Maybe I can tell that you're out of it today. I can just tell by the way you walked in the building that you need a little bit of extra motivation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do, actually.
The first mistake you make on the field, I'm already knowing is because your mind's somewhere else.
See, that right there, that's what I'm talking about. That is exceptional input. That's an exceptionally intelligent young man playing that position. You want to know that. You want to know that as a football fan. I want to know that as a football writer. And he comes through and he makes the game by sharing what he did there with me come more to life. I realize this isn't a football pure subject that I'm going at you with here this morning, but I felt compelled to share because it's had a really big impact on me. When we come back, J1Q.
Back. It's time for Just One Question, and that's brought to you always on this program by the personal injury law firm of Luxembourg, Garvin, Kelly, and George, LGKG. They represent people who are hurt in car accidents who need assistance with workers' comp and medical malpractice claims. The attorneys at LGKG have been designated super lawyers, capital S, capital L, for the past 15 years. And yes, that is a real thing. The super lawyer designation is reserved for the top 5% of all attorneys in Pennsylvania. Learn more about them at lgkg.com or by calling 888-842-5454.
And our J1Q today comes from Ed DePersis, who asks, hi, DK, why can't Montravius Adams play one of the defensive end positions? I don't remember for sure, but I thought the Saints were a 4-3 team, and he was a defensive tackle. Also, is DeMarvin Leal a day one starter? Ed, I can and will answer both of these individually, but there's a bigger thought, I think, that goes into replacing Stephon Tuitt than what you've mentioned, and I'll get to that as well. Yes, the Saints have been a 4-3 defense, and yes, Montravius Adams has had, obviously, experience within it. That said, when Adams was brought to Pittsburgh, he was brought here to be that plugging guy, that run-stopping guy, the nose tackle, basically, and you have one of those in Tyson Alualu. Adams, in all likelihood, is going to be the guy who spells Alualu or takes his place if and when he's unavailable. I'm not envisioning a greater role. Leal, as I'd mentioned on yesterday's show, is more of a work in progress. I use the word project, and some listeners in comments didn't like that because it makes it sound like they're going to, craft him out of nothing, and it tends to be taken as a pejorative, and I didn't mean it that way. Leal needs work. He's a guy who was a pass rusher, first and foremost, at Texas A&M, and in order to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers on the defensive line, you've got to be able to stop the run. You've got to be able to get off your block. You've got to be able to take the gaps. If that was not his forte in college, and by all accounts it wasn't, then there's work to be done. So no, I don't see him as a day one starter, but hey, look, if he, goes into Latrobe and, wrecks people, I'm sure everyone's going to be really open-minded about it. Here's where I say that this is something that's probably better viewed through a panoramic lens, and it's this. Omar Khan just lost a $9 million defensive lineman, a guy who's got all-pro pedigree, a guy who the last time we saw him on the field was performing at the level of Cam Hayward, which is a pretty high compliment. In turn, because Tuitt's retired, Omar is now left with something that he very much understands, and that's a whole heck of a lot of cap space. He can go and get pretty much any defensive lineman he wants to replace him. And every time I say that, there's always blowback. Oh, you look into this free agent market. It's not just about the free agent market. You can make trades in the NFL. You can do that. It's early June. You can pull this off. You might have to give up a draft pick in the process, but a need is a need. And this is a need. I don't want to keep taking constant jabs at the rest of the guys in the defensive line room, but, who's going to step up? Who's going to be that guy that you can say with certainty right now in June? Is it Adams? Is it Chris Wormley? Is it Isaiah Loudermilk? I don't know. But I do know that if this is your greatest hole, and I believe that it now is, and you've got all this cap space and the Steelers are somewhere in the $20 million range, even if you follow Kevin Colbert's policy of keeping $5 million in your pocket when the season starts, you can't do that. You can't do that in your first year as GM. It looks like, just from a perception standpoint, you ran from your first challenge. And this is a challenge. This is a challenge for Omar. It's a challenge for his new staff, for Andy Weidel, for everyone who's involved in evaluating and finding talent. Find someone who's maybe undervalued on another roster and pursue them. Someone who's maybe not going to get a chance to start somewhere, but you think they'd be able to start here because of a better schematic fit or a skill set fit. Get to work is what I'm saying. Get to work across the board. Make the guys that you have better, but also dig deep in finding out what's out there related to the defensive line. And to say it one more time, not just in free agency. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everyone listening to Daily Shot of Steelers today and all week long. And again, mini camps next week. I'll be out there bringing you original material from there and looking forward to that in a way that I hope you now understand a little bit better after hearing today's show.